It is the Vulcan Termite and Pest Control Hotline where we find Senator Jabo Waggoner. He awaits. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning. Morning, Matt.
Hope you're doing well. Hope you're keeping dry and, bunker down for the next 48. We're going to get some snow, it looks like.
I think so. My deck is just a solid sheet of ice, and the road in front of my home is. So people need to stay home this morning for a while.
Yeah, be careful out there. And look, the legislative session is only like 7 days away. So all the people of Alabama need to be careful. Hold on to your wallets. The legislature's back in session.
That's right. A week from today at noon, we convene.
I say hold on to your wallets every year, but maybe more. It hits closer to home this year as the governor's kind of turned away from his no new taxes campaign pledge and is now proposing a $700 million tax increase. What do you say about it, Jabo?
We had a Republican Senate caucus meeting last Friday. We met about our agenda and the bills and for about 4 or 5 hours, and there was not a lot of enthusiasm among the Republican senators about the governor's desire. We didn't talk about it a long time, but we touched on the subject. We talked about the incentive program that's going to be introduced, and we heard about the tax increase, but there was not a lot of enthusiasm. So I think it's going to be an uphill battle for the governor.
Well, I see it as that as well. And I know I'm kind of dragging you on the dance floor in asking this question, Jabo, but ask it I must. The governor campaigned on no new taxes. I thought that everyone understood the budget shortfalls that were looming over this year's general fund. You and I have talked about it in the past. We've had multiple conversations with multiple representatives. One would assume the governor's office was privy to this same information. So how do you campaign on no new taxes and then literally 48 hours after the election happens, you begin talking about having to tax the people additionally?
Well, it was a surprise to all of us. We all in the Republican ranks campaigned against new taxes. You know, all the House members, the Senate members, the Secretary of State, the state auditors, the state treasurer, everybody campaigned against no new taxes. And it was a total surprise to all of us. You know, we were just really shocked. But here we are, and we'll deal with it starting next Tuesday. In fact, he is not going to release his plan until the state of the state. He makes a speech, every year before the session, and it'll be statewide television, and that's when we and the public will find out what he's talking about.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of remains to be seen specifics on the new tax measures, but he has stated that he will not bring it to a vote of the people with a constitutional amendment in a similar fashion that Amendment 1 was brought to the people under the Riley administration. I think he might have a better shot of selling what he's selling to the people of the state. I think he's going to have a tougher burden to bear to try to cobble together the votes to get many people who, like you say, campaigned on a promise of no new taxes, and these are folks who are running again, to get them to vote in favor of a tax increase at the state legislative level. Would you agree that, I don't think the people of Alabama want it, but I think the legislature might want it even less.
I have not heard one House member on the Republican side or one senator say, hey, I'm for it. I think it's going to be a very, very tough sell. In fact, I'm not sure he will get a vote. If it ever gets to the floor, of course, when a bill is introduced, it's got to go through a committee process, and I cannot see a tax increase coming even out of committee. So I think there's some tough days ahead for him on that proposal.
Hey, Jabo, you've been in Montgomery serving for a long time. What does it say? You mentioned that the governor's not really talking to any member of the legislative body about the specifics, that you'll find out about it when we find out about it at the State of the State address.
Right.
What do you think that says? Would you not expect that the governor behind the scenes might be trying? And I would think that you would be a good person to go to in leadership. someone that he perhaps could help understand why he feels the need to go against his campaign pledge. Does it surprise you they're not working channels behind the scenes?
Yes, historically, the governor, when he has a proposal like this, would get with at least the leadership, the Senate leadership, the House leadership. But now he may have been talking to maybe Dale Morris and Mike Hubbard. I don't know, but, I'm a member of the leadership in the Senate, and he has not talked to me about this or any other bill this session. So I have not talked to Dale to find out if the governor has spoken to him, but I don't think he has. Mike Hubbard, I don't know.
We know that in the House caucus meeting, a companion meeting to the Senate caucus meeting you referenced, I had Representative Ed Henry on the show, and he admitted that he was directly involved in a conversation between he and the governor concerning road projects, bridge projects, money coming back to individual district projects. The governor, in his words, using a bit of strong-arm tactics in an effort to get people on his side of the taxation issue. What do you make of that? And what, in your experience, has been the legislative response if the executive branch tries these sorts of techniques?
I've heard the same thing. In fact, I've heard the words used. He threatened us. He threatened to pull projects from our district if we did not help him. I was not privy to that conversation. I just talked to some House members, and it was in the media, that the governor actually threatened House members to vote for this tax proposal. And he took credit for getting many of them elected. I got y'all elected, so y'all owe me. That was kind of the perception of the House members that I talked to. He did not meet with us last Friday when the Republican Senate caucus met. He was in Washington, so we did not get exposed to that conversation that he did with the House members. But, that's what the House members told me. He would pull any project, road project or any other kind of project from their district if he did not get their support. So that's highly unusual, and but that's what Governor Bentley said.
The question is, will it be effective?
No, it will not. I can assure you.
I've always appreciated your succinct nature from time to time in answering some of these questions, but I think I concur with you. I think my knowledge of some of the folks we're discussing, yourself included, those types of things aren't going to go over very well. We're joined by Senator Jabo Waggoner on the Murphy Show hotline, helping us get a lay of the land in anticipation of the legislative session, which begins 1 week from today. I mentioned Jabo AEA, and certainly they, like other special interests, deserve a seat at the table to offer their viewpoints on these matters that affect education. No one's denying them that. For far too long, as you well know, they've been the 800-pound gorilla in the room, particularly when Paul Hubbard was in charge. Henry Mabry, we are told, has been released from his duties. He's got a due process deal going on now. What do you think this says about the direction of the state, and what do you think of the direction of AEA, and does it provide an opportunity for the Alabama legislature to perhaps move forward with some issues concerning charter schools and the like?
Matt, you're correct. For years and years, AEA was the 800-pound gorilla. They were the most influential, dominant lobbying force in Montgomery. And the trial lawyers were not far behind them. They were very, very influential over tort issues and other legal issues. The difference is the trial lawyers, when the Republicans took over the House and Senate in 2010, they saw the handwriting on the wall, and they came to the table, and it has really worked well for them, and it has worked for us. We've negotiated, we've compromised, we've communicated with the trial lawyers, and I must compliment them because, they came to the table. The AEA, to the contrary, has not come to the table. They were still, they thought they were still in the Paul Hubbard days where they were the dominant force. And They aren't anymore. When the Republicans took over in 2010 and they were the supermajority in the House and Senate, you know, AEA lost battle after battle after battle in the legislature. And, you know, they spent about $20 million trying to get House members and Senate members elected last November. But I don't think they were successful at all. So they have not learned yet, like the trial lawyers learned, that they need to come to the table and work with us instead of working against us. So that was the difference. And, of course, Mabry is not nearly the communicator that Paul Hubbard was. So they really have lost ground over the last 4 years, and they're probably going to, you know, they're going to replace him. They'll still be a force. They still deserve a seat at the table, and we will communicate with them, but hopefully it'll be a give and take this time with the new executive director of the AEA.
The name that we are hearing quite a bit floated as a potential replacement for Henry Mabry. Obviously, this is just scuttlebutt, but that name is Roger Bedford, who was recently defeated in his district, longtime representative. What do you think, if that name is being considered, what do you think that says about AEA, that they would consider a longtime member of the Alabama legislature? Obviously, to me, it indicates that they recognize there's been a disconnect between the elected servants and AEA.
In spite of Roger's politics, socially, he's a good guy, and he's a great communicator. And I think he probably would be a positive force to communicate with the Democrats and the Republicans. He knows he can count. He knows that there are 26 Republicans in a 35-person Senate, and there are 72 Republicans in a 105-member House. And he can count. He knows the numbers, and I think he would be willing to come to the table and open up a good line of communication and be a compromiser and a facilitator. He may not be interested. I don't know if he will. Of course, that job is in Montgomery, and he lives in Russellville, so, you know, there is somewhat of a disconnect geographically between where he lives and where this job is. So, but he might be a prospect for that position.
I know there's plenty of time during the session for us to discuss these matters, these particular individual bills that come up or matters that come up, general fund shortfall, obviously, prison reform, charter schools. But, I mean, what comes to your mind, Jabo, when you think of the new legislative session? What's the legislation or what's the matter that you believe needs addressing at the forefront?
Matt, since 1992, Alabama has been very, very successful in attracting new industries, going back to Mercedes and then Honda and Hyundai and Remington and ThyssenKrupp and Airbus and Toyota. We have done it very well because we had a great incentive program. These companies aren't coming to our state because, you know, we win in football and we're nice people. They come because of the incentives. We have gotten behind as far as incentives to attract these huge corporations. Other states have passed us, and they're getting the companies that we used to get. So the Department of Commerce, Greg Canfield, has a 6-bill package to improve our incentive package so we can continue to attract these companies. So we need more taxpayers instead of more taxes, okay? And the way you get more taxpayers is to attract more industry, big companies, big corporations, and allow your small businesses to expand. So I'm excited about the 6-bill incentive package that the Department of Commerce and Greg Canfield is coming with, and that will be a priority of ours to pass this 6-bill incentive package.
I like that, Jabo. I'm stealing that line. We need more taxpayers, not more taxes. That's good.
How about that?
Jabo, thank you for your time. Let's do it often during the legislative session. Obviously, the folks in and around your community enjoy hearing from you and want to know what's going on in Montgomery. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Take
All
care.
right.
That's Jabo Waggoner joining us for 15 or so good minutes. talking about first the governor's tax increase proposal. I think you know clearly where Jabo is on that. We need more taxpayers, not more taxes. The question is whether the money will be there to provide some form of incentive program. I don't know that that's the case. I don't know that we have the money to fill the general fund, much less money to provide incentives for new jobs to come into the state of Alabama. That money has dried up, and we got good results from it. I mean, you know, Remington Arms, an example. I mean, you can – I mean, it's the world that we live in. I hate it, but it is a fact that states now have to provide a honeypot when in competition for some of these bigger businesses. Question is, where do you cut it off, and how much incentive do you get these bigger businesses when you're giving smaller businesses virtually none to grow? And, you know, tax breaks don't come their way because they're the little guy. It's only the big guy that get those tax breaks. All right, so that's expected to be a topic of conversation, obviously, as the legislative session gets underway.